This is Beyond the Uniform with TJ Brassil.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Uniform. I'm your host, TJ Brassil, and I'm joined today by the world record holder in the women's 100-meter hurdles, Keni Harrison. Keni, thank you for joining the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's take it back real quick to that world record. A couple weeks prior, you run at the Olympic trials, you don't make the team. Fast forward a few weeks later, you go and not only do you break a world record, you break a world record against all the women who made the team and are going to the Olympics. What was your mindset like going into that race?
Going into it, it was very hard. I think not missing out on the Olympic team, that was like my number one goal for the year. And so once that was kind of didn't happen, it was like, all right, my coach was like, we got to set new goals. And the only thing that's going to make you feel a little bit better about this year is going after that world record. So it was like the first couple of practices, I was just like, I don't want to be here, and I just wanted to give up. But going into London, it was just like, all right, like I have a point to prove. Like, yeah, like I had a sucky race, like, and it just happened to be the trials, it happens. And all I can do is kind of get myself back out there. Of course, it's going to be embarrassing. Of course, it's going to be hard, but I had my coach by my side. And so going into London, I was so focused on just like going out there and just running as hard as I possibly could.
And now when you finished, the time up on the board wasn't your time. It was the second place time. So you didn't even know that you had a world record for a hot minute there. When you finally saw the time go up and you realized like, you just broke the world record. What went through your mind?
Well, like at first when I seen 12.5, it was just like, okay, like, you won. So, oh well. And I'm trying to walk off the track, and then Nia Ali is just like taps me. It's like turn around, Keni, like look at the board. And I'm like, I just see WR, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I did it. And that moment is just a moment. It's hard to even describe in words, but it was just unbelievable just to see that and to have just done that.
What kind of confidence did that give you going into all the races following?
It was just kind of like, you're the best to ever do it. And so like I still felt fast, and I still felt like I had a point to prove, and I just wanted to finish my season strong from that point on. And I think I wasn't like pressured to run fast, it was just kind of like go out there and have a little fun and not to put pressure on myself.
Now, I had read that post trials going into that race, you got a call out of the blue from your high school coach that kind of like reinvigorated you. What about that motivated you so much?
Yeah. So it was just like I said, after not making the team and then going to practices, I was just kind of like sluggish. I just had an attitude. I didn't really want to be there. And so my coach was just like, Keni, like you got to make up in your mind, like you either want to go to London and finish your season, or you could just finish season right now. And I knew not finishing my season wasn't really an option, but I was still very like, well, maybe like I will stop. And I just wasn't 100% committed on going to the next Diamond League. So Coach Flo was just like, yeah, like go home, pray about it. Like you have a strong faith, like, do what you need to do and make up a decision. And, I'm going to support you, whatever you choose. So it was like that night I was just like praying, and I was just like, like I felt like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, I know like God like gave me this talent to go out there and just really show the world what I'm made of and all the hard work and dedication that I put into it. And so, it was like the next morning I get a phone call from Coach Sally, and she was like my summer track coach. So I don't even get to see her like that often throughout the high school season, only in the summertime. So she was just like, hey, like, I know I haven't spoken to you since, you were in high school, and which was like that was 2016. I graduated in 2011. So it was just like, I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, I just felt like God wanted me to tell you to keep going and not to give up. And I was just like, as soon as I heard that, I was just like, okay, like I went to practice. I'm like, Flo, I got the call. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, I feel better about this, and I'm not going to give up.
That's really cool. That is for sure a sign right there. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm like, it doesn't get clearer than that. So
Absolutely. All right. And then, so in the Olympics, U.S. sweeps the medals, goes 1, 2, 3 without the world record holder. So that just kind of speaks to the caliber of that
Right.
event and how difficult it is to make the team for the 100-meter hurdles.
Mhm.
But on the flip side, I feel like the hurdles is one of the events that it's like the most inconsistent event because there's so many things that can go wrong. Like in other sprint events, like you either got it that day or you don't, pretty much. Like there's phases you go through and stuff. What is it about the hurdles that makes it so hard to stay consistent?
I just think it's the talent. I think the Americans are the coaches are so good at, making everyone fast in that event. And, everyone, it's so weird because everyone has slightly different techniques to get over the hurdle. But sometimes, like when you're on, you're on. And, there's barriers in the way. So like anything can happen. I feel like that's why it's so like inconsistent because if you lack the technique, you're going to hit a hurdle and, hitting a hurdle can slow you down. It's just, the event is just so like intense. And so, I mean, I really enjoy being competitive in it. And I feel like over the years, I've just gotten more and more confident in myself and my technique and just trusting the process. And I know like when I go against the other girls, I'm like, I got to bring my A game because if I don't, like, like anyone can go out there and take it. So it just keeps me on my toes.
Did it feel different? Did the race feel different? Your race when you broke the world record, or did you finish? You were just like, oh snap, I ran that really fast.
I felt like I was running fast. I didn't have the greatest start. I didn't really pull away until hurdles 3, 4, and so on. But I just felt I had my rhythm, and I just took off from there, and I just felt like I was getting faster and faster. And before the race, my coach was like, "Hey, can you dip at the line?" And I never lean at the line. It's just something that I don't do. And so I was just like, I wanted to ask him like why, but then I was just like, what, can you just be quiet, listen to your coach? And I'm like, you got it, coach. And so I dipped as hard as I could. And that's why when I saw 12.5, I'm like, the dip probably didn't even do anything, but clearly it did.
So he knew going in like you were about to see something special.
Yeah, he said it was like after, because there's 2 rounds in London. So the first round, it was like I ran 12:40, like piece of cake, slowing down. And he was just like, I go back to the warm up area and he's setting up like 6 to 7 hurdles. And I was like, oh my gosh, like Flo, like, why didn't I just do this at the Olympic trials? And I just wanted to kind of like start pouting. And he was just like, shut up, Keni, like, stop it. Don't do this. Like, this is not the time. Like, get over these hurdles. And I was just like, all right. I could tell like he was pretty serious. So I was just like, all right, I'm going to do what I'm told. But he said like afterwards, he was like, the touchdowns that I were doing were like indicating like I can run fast. And he said like, he even said to this day, like going into trials, like my pre-meet and stuff, like I was hitting some of the fastest times that I've ever hit. So the fact that it didn't happen at London, in Oregon, but then it happened in London, it just showed that like he was right.
That's awesome. So you said that you didn't even have that great of a start though. So there's a lot more in the tank then.
Yeah. It wasn't like bad, but I didn't pull away like I can. And so that's just something that we're learning now. Like it's just being more consistent at the beginning.
So, and this is, I know we're going through the stuff that like didn't make the trials and stuff like, or didn't make the team and stuff like that. But like at the same time, you've had plenty of experience on the world stage. You came in second at the Worlds in 2019. So going into now 2021 Olympics and going into the trials, like what will it take for you to get that gold medal?
I think it's just believing in myself and not getting caught up in what's going on around me. I think 2016, it was like, I came out of nowhere and I'm running times that were just like catching everyone's attention and everyone's just like, oh my gosh, like you're the new hurdler, and it's doing all the press and just doing all that stuff was just kind of getting to me. And I didn't really think that it was until like we sat down and like really thought about it, like what was different, going into all the other Diamond Leagues that year. I wasn't getting interviews. I wasn't, the media wasn't like really on me like that. So doing press conference and just knowing like, oh man, like America like is counting on me. I just think that all just got to me and just being not mature enough to handle my emotions and going out there and doing what I've been doing all year. I think it just shows like going now, it's like I'm gotten better, mentally. Physically, I feel like I'm still the same. I still feel like I can go faster, but now it's just like, I had my downs and like I've learned from them. And like, I just feel like confidence wise, I'm a lot better and I know how to handle the pressure now.
And so I mentioned that the trials and everything are moved back a year due to COVID-19. So I mean, there's so many athletes like yourself who've been training for years for this moment to make the team and go to the Olympics. What is having to wait a whole another year do mentally to athletes?
Um, I'm kind of glad they told us pretty early and they didn't hold it off any longer. But I just feel like you just have to look at the brighter side, and now we can get even better on things, some of our weaknesses of our races, and that's kind of how I'm going into it. That's kind of how I'm taking my training sessions now. We may not know when we're going to compete this year, but I can work on the small things that are going to help me for the following year.
And you just talked about how you've got all the media attention now. You're used to it. So what will your mindset be going into this next trials?
I think going into the next trials is just going out there and winning the race and not thinking of it as the Olympic trials. It's just another race. I feel like when you capitalize on the actual event, it can kind of stress me out or, let the nerves get the best of me. But now it's just another meet, and that's how I'm going to go into it. The goal is to run across that line first. And so that's just kind of how how I think about races now.
And so you've talked about in the past that you see a sports psychologist, and that's something that over the last 5 to 10 years, a lot of athletes have really started to do and really started to focus on their mental health. What kind of impact has seeing a sports psychologist had on you?
It's had a really big impact. I think people can just tell how I hurt on it now. I was able to go and get second at Worlds, and I won indoor Worlds, and so I just think our sport is so mental. Like, you're not on a team. Like, you have to go out there and get it done, and no one's going to do it for you. And your mind can literally just trick you into thinking that you don't have what it takes. I would be running fast and be like, can I do this? And so it's just like, you got to know how your mind works. And my mind was really weak. And a lot of the girls, I felt like, they were better than me, even if they had a slower time than me. That's how I was going into races. And so seeing a sports psych, it's just like, no, like, don't think like that. Don't let the negativity change your like ability. Because if you think negative, all of a sudden your form can just turn to trash. And then all of a sudden you run like trash, because you think you're like not that good. And so seeing a sports psych has made all the difference.
That's awesome. And well, definitely don't think you're not all that good because you're the world record holder. So just a reminder. And so you mentioned earlier that your Coach Flo, and so you train in Texas with him. And I had Jenna on last season, and she trains with you guys down there as well. There's so many like high caliber athletes that go to train with Coach Flo. What is it about him that attracts so many people to want to come work with him?
He just knows his stuff. I feel like he is able to connect with every one of his athletes in different ways, because all of us learn different. And he's so passionate about what he does. Like, he's not doing this to get paid. He's not doing this, for him. He's doing it for us. And he's out there from like 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., and we're like, oh my goodness, like, are you going to eat, And sometimes he forgets, because that's how like consumed he is of just making us the athletes that we dream of being. And he always he sees stuff in his athletes, and he lets you know, like, you can be great, and I'm going to help you reach your goals. And so just having that passion inside, and he cares about you like as people, he cares about our future. He's like, all right, like, after track, like, what are you going to do? And, he's just really concerned about who we are as people, and he just wants us to like be the best people that we can be on and off the track. So I think it's just like the compassionate side that he has for his athletes.
Now, on the flip side of that, not only do you train down in Texas and train with all these like collegiate athletes that are there as well, but you also help coach them. So if you could step back into the collegiate you for a second, because it wasn't that long ago you were in college.
Yeah.
what kind of impact does it have on these athletes to be able to train with a world record holder who's literally at the top of her game?
Um, I feel like when I was at Clemson, I actually trained with Queen Harrison and Christy Caslin. So I remember just being a freshman, like, oh my goodness, like that's Queen, that's Chrissy, and just like really looking up to them and wanting to be in their shoes and wanting to do what they do. So I know how that collegians feel when they run against me and Jenna at training. Like, they know we're gonna give it 100%. They see what it takes to be the type of athletes that we are, and so I feel like for the most part, I feel like they like it so much, and me and Jenna, we're like, you're not going to beat us in a rep, so bring it. And all they want to do is beat us in reps. So I feel like on both sides, like it's really great to train with collegians as well as professionals. So I feel like it helps a lot.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And so I mentioned Jenna Prandini, one of your close friends who was on season 1 and trains with you down there. So she came down not too long ago. What kind of impact has she had on you training wise?
Oh, she's had a huge impact. I don't lose in running reps. Like, I hate losing. And when she came to the group, it was like, Flo was like, guess what? You're training with Jenna. And guess what? She's a fast sprinter. And so I'm like, oh, bring it. So, like, the first couple of practices, I'm just like, I am giving it 110. And somehow Jenna's still in front of me. So, so I feel like it's made me a better sprinter because I know where that's one thing that I lack in. It's the speed. And being able to run the 100 and 200 is really important for my event. And so I'm glad she came to the group. And, I know if we're doing anything under a 150, like I have to be like on just to kind of stay with her. She doesn't like doing 300s, so I like it when Flo gives us 300s because that's when I shine. But I love having her here, and I love having her in our group. I feel like we're kind of similar when it comes to training and just giving 110%. So it's nice to train with somebody like that.
That's awesome. I don't know if she remembers this. Up at Oregon, I used to call her White Lightning when I first got up there. I don't think that stuck. I don't think that lasted very long, but I thought it was funny for like a hot second. And so you mentioned how you're kind of similar or pretty similar. And you talked about getting used to that media attention. That's something that both of you, like, you don't really look for the media attention, but you're both at the top of your game, and so the media just kind of follows you.
Right.
How have you gotten used to that, dealing with that media attention?
Again, I feel like it's just speaking my truth and, not saying things just so people like what people want to hear. Sometimes I think you just got to stand up for yourself. And I feel like after a while, you just kind of get used to the questions, and I'm able to like think pretty quick. But like you said, like me and Jenna, like we're introverts. So we're not the type of people to like say what we do and be like, yeah, like this is how fast I am. We'll let other people say what we do. And so I think that's another reason why like media kind of just at first was just so overwhelming, because it's just like, yes, I broke a world record, but like, I don't want to talk about it, that type of thing. That's just my personality. But again, it's just kind of like you have to adapt. And I know being the best hurdler, it's like you need to tell people about yourself. You got to be more confident when you speak. And so, I think it just comes with the territory.
Absolutely. And so when in the first season when we had her on, I was talking with Janet. She's, as you well know, an amazing cook, and so we were talking a little bit about that. And she was telling me that you're the grill master. So I have to know, like, what's your favorite thing to grill?
I'm not the grill master, but I like salmon. We cook a lot of like chicken on the grill. Well, Jenna cooks, but yeah, I'm glad I have her as a neighbor, because it's just like, hey, like I'll get the ingredients if you cook it for me, And so I feel like it balances out.
Fair, very fair. And she was also talking about how the trip to the front doors was way too long, so you guys decided to cut a hole in the fence. Whose idea was that?
Oh, I'm not sure. I feel like we both kind of were like, I think we need to like make a entrance in the back and cut our fences. But it was just like, I don't want to walk over to your house if I'm wearing pajamas or like I have like my headscarf on, and then like your neighbors look at you. So it's just like, we're gonna go through the back, and now we can just kind of enter when we want, and no one's really gonna see us. But yeah, and it's shorter distance instead of
That's
5
right.
feet, it's 3.
Hey, you got to save the legs whenever you can. Absolutely. Another thing that we had talked about is, and I've seen on both your guys' Instagrams, is you guys are quite the pranksters. So I got to know who amongst the both of you is the better prankster, whether you're pranking each other or other people, and what's the best prank you've done so far?
Well, I feel like Jenna's mom, she's really the prankster, and then like it kind of like instigated both of us. And so any opportunity that like I hear Jenna coming, because I can hear her door like close, like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to scare her. And then we kind of like take turns. Like if I get her, she'll get me, and it's really funny. That's like the only like prank that we do is jump out at each other, like we can't see. But when people come to our house, we have like a few little like gadgets that are like prank gadgets.
Mhm.
And so we like to like make people open this box and like a spider comes out. We had some people over here, and Jenna has like a fake snake, and we put it in the grass, and we like threw a ball over there, and we were like, can someone look at the ball? And so we got some people that way.
Oh, that's so mean.
Yeah, it's just so funny. And I pranked my dad. I think that's the best one is my dad. I was pretending to cut up some strawberries, and I had beet juice all on my hand. And I started jumping up and down. I started laughing, but he didn't know if I was like laughing, like crying with it. And he comes over. He was like, oh, don't tell me that's you. And then he was like, all right. And he obviously started laughing after that. But he's probably like my number one person that I got pretty good.
That's too funny. And I would think the hole in the fence makes it easier to try to sneak
Yeah.
on people there.
Yeah. And as soon as the sun goes down, you can't see anything.
Now, growing up, you were a big soccer player, and you didn't really start running track until high school, correct?
Yes.
So what was it about track that kind of pulled you away from soccer and into track?
Um, let's just say for soccer, I was just so quick that it was really hard for me to have ball control, and it was really hard for me to like, do tricks and stuff. I mean, I love soccer, but track it just came a lot like it was so natural for me, and I started with the 300-meter hurdles, and it was just like I can jump over this, and I'm pretty fast, and I have some endurance. So I love doing it, and I'm just like the high school coach was just like, okay, can you run at conference? Can you run at regionals? And I just kept qualifying for everything, and I'm like, all right. And it was like my sophomore year, and so I'm still doing soccer. And I would just go to some track practices, like whatever. And then I made it all the way to states, and I ended up getting second. And I'm like, all right, like I don't even like really train like that in this event. And I'm like stutter stepping and stuff like that. And then my sister, she's really the one that kind of like was like, hey, like you're really good at track. Like maybe you should stop doing cheerleading. You should stop doing soccer and kind of focus on this. I'll find you a hurdle coach. And so she did. And after that, it was like I spent a whole summer learning how to do 3-step and getting my 300-meter hurdles better. And then when the season got here, I was just like, wow, like I'm so glad I made this transition.
That's awesome. That's a great way to start a sport. It's like, oh wow, I'm better than pretty much everyone. Maybe I should do this. And so in college, you didn't just run the 100-meter hurdles. You ran the 400-meter hurdles. You ran other sprint events, and then post-collegiately, you decided just to focus on the 100-meter hurdles. Why did you decide that was the event you just wanted to focus? Clearly, it's worked out, but why did you decide that was the event you wanted to focus on?
Well, to be honest, it was like after NCAA's, I was like ranked number 2 in the world in the 100 hurdles and the 400-meter hurdles. And so going into USA's, my coach was like, pick an event and you better make the team in whichever one you choose. And I'm like, 100 hurdles. The 400 hurdles, it just hurts. And the last time I ran the 400-meter hurdles, it was painful. Like, I just remember like leading the entire race all through 10 hurdles. In the last like 20 meters, I like kind of my leg buckled and Shamir just passed me, and I was just gassed. I'm like, I am tired. And so I think the 100 hurdles is just like, you don't get lactic acid. That's like the real reason I decided to do the 100.
That makes sense. Yeah, the I've always thought the 400-meter hurdles, that and probably the 800 are two of the most painful events.
I agree, 100%.
And then, so growing up, you grew up in a pretty big family. You had nine other siblings. So, what kind of impact did that having so many siblings have on like your competitive nature?
Oh, I've been competitive like my entire life. You know, it's just like you got to be competitive to the dinner table. You got to be competitive to the car. Whoever wants to sit shotgun. So there was a lot of rivals in my family, but we also loved playing soccer and seeing who could do the most tricks and score the most goals. If I'm jumping on a trampoline, it was like who can do the best tricks on that. And so I loved competing, and I loved just trying to outdo my brothers and sisters in whatever I did. So I think that's why I like gravitated towards like sports because I was just so well at them.
Did you guys always like compete in different sports too, or and you were like made sure that you won everything?
Yeah. Well, my brothers, they're like bigger than me. So like soccer, they would always shove me and like, you know, not do the right thing. So slide tackle, and that's how they would cheat. But you know, when it came to like tumbling and stuff like that, like I could always do the best tricks on a trampoline. And so it's like they had their thing, I had mine, and yeah.
Well, when you're faster than everyone, they got to figure out some way to slow you down.
Yeah, I know.
And so, and also growing up, you were adopted. So there's been stories with other very successful athletes like Simone Biles who were adopted, and they talked about how that really shaped them as an athlete and as a person. How did being adopted shape you as an athlete and a person?
I think being adopted has kind of shaped me just because I was adopted as a baby. So right off the bat, it was just like, these are my parents. You know, they may not have the same color skin as me, but, you know, I love them, and they were able to put me in whatever I wanted. You know, it wasn't, hey, you can't do this, you can't do this, but it was like, hey, you can try whatever you want, and we're going to support you 100%, and just do what you love. And so I feel like just having parents that were able to financially put me in whatever sport that I want, kind of just, they knew like sports was my type of, like my thing. And so no matter like, cause being on the travel soccer team, like it's very expensive, but they always found a way to do that. And, you know, if it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for them to be able to put me in these different sports, whatever I did, like I wouldn't be the athlete that I am today. And so I'm just like so blessed just to have been adopted in such a great family. So I feel like that's kind of how.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so also in college, not only were you an NCAA champion, successful on the track, but you also in 2016 were a recipient of the NCAA Top 10 Award, which honors athletes for their success on the field, in the classroom, and in the community. So why was it so important to you to not only be so successful on the track, but also be so impactful elsewhere as well?
Well, school is something that like I struggled in from a young age. I had a hard time reading, I had a hard time doing math. And so I think that's where I learned how to work hard, because I knew I had to give 100%. I had to work so much harder in like my homework or whatever I did to make average grades, and where some of my siblings, they literally can just know it like that. They have photographic memory, and I'm just like, wow, like I don't have that. But guess what? Like I want to be successful in the classroom as like, you know, oh well, don't throw a pity party, like get over it and find a way. And so going to Kentucky, it was like they had so many resources for me to excel in the classroom. And that's the one thing that like Coach Flo was so like serious about. He's like, all of my athletes are going to graduate, and, you know, school comes first. And so just having a coach that was just so for school was really important to me. And so it was so easy for me to excel in the classroom. And I ended up making like my highest GPA at Kentucky. So just to get that award, it was just like, wow, if only you guys knew.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join the show. I really appreciate it. And we'll look forward to seeing you go kill it in the trials and the Olympics coming up.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course, thank you. And make sure to remind Coach Flo to eat some food every once in a while.
I will.
Awesome. And thank you for everyone for watching and listening. If you haven't subscribed either on YouTube or on the podcast, be sure so you don't miss an episode, and go follow our Instagram beyond_the uniform, so you don't miss any news or notes or up to date about anything. So thanks again. And don't forget that every athlete has a story. You just have to listen. I'll see you next time. This was Beyond the Uniform with TJ Brassil. Join me again next week when the gold medalist and world record holder in the men's 100-meter backstroke, Ryan Murphy, joins the show.